You wanted to hear about Andrew's philosophy against feminism. Maybe that goes into like forced doctrine stuff.
Oh yeah, I wanted to hear about that in particular.
Oh no,
I'm just
not
like
feminism.
I'm infected with the woke virus, so I need to be enlightened.
With the woke virus.
You're not going to like it.
I need to be enlightened, Andrew. Please help me out.
Yeah, so, well, let's just start with, can I tell you what I think feminism is?
Can you tell me about forced doctrine first? Or would you?
Well, I think I
rather-
need to
Let's do
caveat.
feminism first.
I think I need to caveat it with what I think feminism is.
Okay.
I think feminism is an egalitarian movement which is designed to dismantle patriarchy. That's what I think
So
feminism
like
is.
equal rights kind of thing.
No,
'Cause I would call that-
egalitarian would match the equal rights, but you're missing the dismantling patriarchy aspect. I think that feminism has a stated goal of dismantling patriarchal systems because it uses a lens of an oppressor-oppressed class. And if you're an oppressed class, who are you oppressed by? Well, in the case of all women being oppressed, who else could they be oppressed by except men? And men are the patriarchy.
I mean, when I think about like feminism and look at today's world, I don't think men are oppressing women, and that the system we live in, especially like legally, is patriarchal. I think there's people with patriarchal ideals.
Then why do we
in
need
society.
feminism for?
Well, I mean, when I think of feminism, I just think of like encouraging women to pursue what they want to pursue, whether that's like in a professional space,
So why
in a
would we need
domestic space.
So why do we need feminism then?
Because there's a lot of women who maybe feel like they can't, like they
So
like they
who's
should do a certain thing.
And who's the oppressor here? Who's oppressing them into
I'm
believing
not saying
that?
anyone's the oppressor.
So then feminism to you is just an advocation that women should just do what they want?
Yeah, kind
That's
of.
it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like feminists who say like, oh, we live in such a patriarchy and we're so oppressed. And then there's feminists who say like, who just support women just like pursuing their goals, reaching their fullest potential and being
But you don't
successful
believe
in life.
women should strive for all goals, right? Like,
Well-
you can have bad goals that women shouldn't pursue. You would agree with that.
I mean, when it comes to like me evaluating other people's goals, pursue whatever goal you want to pursue, so long as you're not causing active harm to anyone.
Okay, so you have an active harm principle. So the active harm principle is like, do as thou wilt as long as it harms nobody else.
Yeah.
That's impossible, though, because
Directly.
Yeah, but this is the problem with the harm principle in general. Is that
Well, most people don't have goals that are harming people. Like most women aren't trying to pursue.
Well, I think
goals are
that
harming
people don't generally set out to harm people, but I think that people can have goals that harm people, whether they set out to
The
do
goals
it or
I'm
not.
talking about are personal and professional goals mostly.
Yeah,
Would
Like
you
this is my
then-
life goal. This is what I want to do. This is my purpose.
Would
I
you then
understand.
consider someone who is putting out content that might be racy, that if a 16-year-old boy came across it, it would be harmful to him?
That could harm him, yeah.
yeah, can harm him.
But I mean, also that like pivots into my whole like beliefs on the sex work debate. I want to stay focused on this.
Well, okay, so I guess I'll try to make it easy for you. So, I think patriarchy itself is the stated goal of deconstruction from feminism. I do think that they want to deconstruct the patriarchy, and they're trying to move women into egalitarian positions with men, and that's why the patriarchy has to be deconstructed.
I mean, when I think of feminism, I think of like a broad range of movements. You have like the first wave of feminism, modern feminism,
It's all
and
the
it
same
encompasses
movement.
a lot of like different degrees of beliefs, which is why I wanted to hear more about like the whole forced doctrine thing.
Well, force doctrine is just advocating that men have a monopoly on force.
Mm-hmm.
And so since men have a monopoly on force, women are always going to have to appeal to a patriarchal system to enforce their rights. And so no matter what happens, you end up with circularity. Men have the monopoly on force. Women will always have to appeal to men for force. Therefore, it's true feminism and dismantling of patriarchy is never possible because they're always appealing to the patriarchy in order to enforce their rights.
Okay. So, I mean, when I hear you say that, what I immediately think is like you're drawing a sort of legitimacy from the fact that men have greater strength, greater capacity for force and violence. They have the monopoly on force, right?
They
And-
do have the
right.
legitimacy from your worldview, not mine. But it's your worldview
no,
that gives them the legitimacy.
I mean, I'm not the one advocating for forced doctrine.
Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
Okay, are you
Well, I mean,
are
I'm
you
not Christian.
You're not a Christian, so what kind of God do you believe in?
I'm Hindu.
You're Hindu. Like practicing Hindu?
Yes. Why is that so funny?
Well, okay, that's fine.
I'm just curious, like, why you burst out.
So, well, because Hinduism and harm reductionism isn't exactly synonymous, which means that you have a distinction principle here.
I don't like draw my political views based on my religion completely. I'm really.
Don't you draw your political views from your morals?
I mean, yeah.
Then where do you get your morals except from your religion?
I mean, I don't get all my morals from religion.
Where do you get them from?
I think there's like some sort of like notion of like objective, like universally understood morals that go beyond religion. I also believe in like separation of like
Well, that's
church
just
and state.
subjective morality. You're just talking about preference. So you get your morals from things you prefer. Like things I prefer are more moral than things
Just
I
like
don't.
how I think people should be treated. Anyways,
Well, that's important. And the reason that that's important, that we're figuring out where you draw your morality from.
I would also say I'm not like super devout to where religion's like heavily.
I understand. So then we got preference. But if it just comes down to preference, then every man's preference is equal to your preference. Everybody's preference is. So why is it not legitimate for men to collectivize and utilize force for the purposes of upping their station in society?
And that's what I was going to touch on. Because when you say like, okay, men have a monopoly on force, women need to appeal to men to gain their rights, it's circular. You're like drawing legitimacy for men from their monopoly on force. And when I see you like kind of equate strength and legitimacy, it's kind of a dangerous slippery slope, because then I think about it this way.
What
I think
other
about it this way.
legitimacy is there?
Listen. I think about it this way. When you draw legitimacy from strength, it's like, okay, pedophiles could collectively overpower little children.
That's right.
And then it seems to like almost force doctrine to me would seem to justify that. Then you're suddenly justifying every tyrannical invading force throughout history, including Russia invading Ukraine, World War II, Nazism. It's a very
or you're justifying the opposite. You're justifying the overthrowing of the Nazism and justifying the overthrowing of pedophilic cults, or justifying the overthrowing of said evil deed. Force doctrine would do both. But that doesn't really negate the fact that what you're doing is you're just always appealing to men again for your rights.
So when you talk about how men have a monopoly on force, you're talking about like, okay, men are like physically, biologically stronger.
Well,
because that's like what you mean, right?
Look, I'll defer to the IFBB pro, okay? I'm guessing that physically she's one of the, like, most females are not stronger than the average male.
But you're talking like...
But you may be. But in comparison to IFBB pro males, she's not.
You're making...
Most of them are stronger on average, right?
You're pointing to
but what I'm saying is that just on average, and it's not minuscule. Like, no offense, right? But I'm guessing that there's hormone replacement and all sorts of thing that goes on that assists with you being able to really get jacked the way that you are, right? Okay, for sure. So the thing is like, men are also doing that in the IFBB, and they get much stronger. And it's not a slight distinction in strength. You're talking about, you're talking about 50 to 75% strength differential. That is fucking huge. That's like fighting with a gorilla. That's like fighting with a gorilla.
I agree.
From a man's perspective.
I agree. Men are collectively a lot, like biologically, physically stronger.
Much physically stronger
totally
than the average woman.
What I was going to say is like when you talk about force and you think about today, okay, let's say you have a 5'2" woman who has access to military-grade weaponry and a missile program, and then you have a 180-pound, 6-foot, whatever man, super strong, who just has like a handgun. Force today, it can be like remote and can be mechanical and is not purely biological. She could physically, using force, overpower him.
And who's in charge? Who's in charge of all of this industry and builds all of these weapons and uses all of these uses all of these weapons and designs all these weapons?
I mean, women are equally capable of being weapons engineers. I think it's more of an intellectual accomplishment.
How come they're not then?
Because I mean, throughout history, women had not been encouraged to enter those kinds of spaces. But like, if you put a woman into that field today and a man into that field, I think they could both be perfectly successful at it.
Let me just ask you a question. Have you ever fired a gun?
No.
Never, right?
I've never fired a gun, no.
No. Are you aware that they actually require a decent amount of physical strength to handle properly?
Sure.
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, okay.
And the bigger the gun, the more physical strength is required. And the other problem is that you have to carry lots of ammo. And that requires a lot of physical strength. And you have to carry a bunch of gear to feed yourself. And then you have to carry bulletproof vests that you're wearing so that when you get shot, right, you don't die.
But I think if you gave me a gun...
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem is, we know this from hundreds of years of military collected data, not just here, but in every nation on planet Earth, that women consistently have to have the standards lowered for them on average so that they can, in any way, shape, or form, keep up with men in those roles. What that tells us collectively is this: they're not as good in them. Men have a huge advantage in all aspects, even including weapons, including even drone piloting. They have advantages in just being able to build things quicker. Almost everything about them is designed as the super predator of the earth. Not predatory in the way that they victimize, but predatory in the way that they can quickly kill almost anything they want to with very little resistance from anything that exists. Because of that, I'm sorry, but you're never going to be able to equalize force between a sex that's 50% on average weaker than them, no matter what technological advances you think you're going to make.
But it is the case that in that scenario, a woman could physically, using that kind of force, overpower the man.
It is hypothetically.
If you're talking about the highest grade of
it
military,
could be hypothetically, like I'm willing to grant that you could have a logical possibility where women have like a fucking, I don't know, dystopian technological future where they invent all of the technology and enforce all of their right through machinery. Okay, I'm willing to grant that. But the thing is like, that's not going to happen. And it's not the case now, and it's not going to be the case in our lifetime or the lifetime of your mom or your mom's mom or even your mom's mom. So right now, at least, the case is that you have to appeal to men for force. And so feminism as a dismantling of patriarchy is not possible because you're appealing to the very thing you're trying to dismantle always to dismantle it.
But it's also interesting because when I think about political movements throughout history in this country that have been super effective, they've done so through social organization, protests, political pressure, cultural influence, things that have nothing to do with force. Because like those are appealing to the government, the people in power. And in those cases, obviously,
and what does the government use?
The government has access to force, but these movements have still been successful.
Because men have allowed them to be. But in places where men don't allow them to be, they're not. Can I give you the entirety of the Middle East and Asia? What happens to your little political movements there?
Well, I'm talking about
what
happening in this
happens
country.
to your little political movements in Afghanistan? Right. Do your little political movements with the holding of the little sign saying, I don't want to wear this really hot fucking burqa in the 100-degree sun, and they come out and cut their fucking head off? How do they do over there? They don't do so good. How come? Mm-hmm. It's because men allow you to keep those signs up. Men allow you to protest. Men are the ones who give the allowance for you to do fucking anything on planet Earth. And my proof is half of planet Earth where men said, no, fuck that. And you know what women can do about it? Nothing. They can't do anything about it.
But in the democratic country we live in, those are valid
all relying on men. All relying on men allowing you to have a democracy.
Right. I think you're thinking that women were able to get rights to vote just because of their protest, but no, it's actually because they needed votes since so many men were at war or dying in war. Like women weren't allowed to vote until
I'm
that
also
point
just curious
where they needed votes.
At that point,
wait, hold on, let her finish. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, women just weren't allowed to like be educated or vote until like the men decided we need women to enter the economy. We need women to enter the voting pool so we can win more because men are dying in these wars.
Actually, there's a lot of truth to that with what industrialization did and industrialists did with wanting to get women to have cheaper labor enter into the workforce. But ultimately, the interesting part here is that all of this just proves force doctrine. The truth is that if men collectivize for rights, they can get them because we can kill other men. We have a monopoly on force. We can kill men. We can take our rights. Let me give you the Revolutionary War as an example of this. We don't like our conditions, we'll fucking kill you and make new conditions. That's what men are capable of doing. In the historic record, when I looked, I never found, not one time, a single instance of women being able to collectivize and use force to take anything from men. Ever. I've never once found it, and I looked hard. I wanted to see if there was even one example. There's not one. Can you think of a single time ever in history, the history that you know about, where women have collectivized and used force to take anything from men?
Not force.
And so if that's the case and men have a monopoly on force, you're always going to have to appeal to them to not use it on you. Because here's the dirty truth, and it's brutal, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to lie to you. Because I have the standard of half the world to look at, I know that if men collectivize in the West and decide to put women in little cages, there's not a shit they can do about it. So they really have to appeal to the benevolence of men, and all they do is demonize them, and that's fucking crazy to me.
So I mean, again, like when I mentioned earlier how that kind of justifies like any tyrannical invading force, do you think
There's not a justification, it's a descriptive.
the less powerful party in that situation should just appease to the oppressor or the invading force?